Welcome back, ID60. We are moving into occupied staging. And actually, before we do, I have a confession to make. In my lectures, all the previous lectures that you've seen, I've selected images that I really feel relate to the topic and even the particular slide. And a lot of these are not my design. I would say 99.9% of them are not my design, and I'm giving credit to the designers of the spaces. And they have been beautiful spaces, if I say so myself. So as I went through this occupied staging lecture, um, it was a little bit different. And so I selected images, and I'm not 100% sure if they are occupied staging. So disclaimer, as we go through this lecture, when we're looking at the images, I cannot guarantee you that they're occupied. I didn't want to ruin the aesthetic of my presentation. I know, selfish. I didn't want to do it. So I again chose beautiful images. Again, not sure if they're occupied. When we get to the assignment, and even actually through the lecture, there are a few that we'll see that I know are occupied. But when we get to the lecture, we will look at some occupied stages and we'll talk about them. But I just wanted to make that disclaimer because these are really beautiful images still, and it could be that it's a little more challenging to make them this beautiful. So I wanted to um, make that disclaimer early on. But again, we will get to the actual photos of occupied stage. So in this module, you will be learning about how to effectively prepare a stage that is occupied, meaning the client is still living in the home, and making sure that it's balanced but still has market appeal. So we'll go over definitions, key differences, advantages, disadvantages, best uses, common challenges. We'll look at the step-by-step process that you go through. How are you working with homeowners, and what impact do you want these homes to have on the market? So, what is vacant staging? So, vacant staging is when a home is completely empty, and you, as the designer, go in and you fill the space, you make it beautiful, you bring in all the furniture, art, accessories, so you are 100% in control, right? As opposed to occupied staging, this is where the homeowner is still living in the property and you are using their furniture and accessories and art and all of that to stage the space. So a lot of times it turns into as much an organizing assignment as it is a staging assignment, because you're having to maybe help them pack and declutter in order to create a beautiful stage. So, what are the goals of an occupied stage? So you're going to highlight the home's best features while minimizing distractions. So that still sounds familiar, right? Same thing we do with the vacant stage. You're going to create a clean, spacious, and neutral environment that appeals to the widest audience. Again, sounds familiar. You're going to help the homeowner emotionally detach from the property. So that's a little bit new, right? Because they're still there. All of their stuff is still there. A lot of it is very personal, pictures, and you are going to have to help them edit and probably even start packing for the move, right? Because these things, there's no need to like shove it all in the garage and then repack it. So you're probably going to help them pack, maybe move it off site so that all the spaces are decluttered, organized, and a little less personal. So again, it's sort of helping them detach and become ready for the move. But you also have to maintain the daily comfort, right? So it still has to function. You have to leave enough there so that they're functioning. And hopefully the result is going to be a space that feels updated and intentional while still comfortable for daily living. But also when the buyer comes in, it's something that they can relate to. So I really liked this quote. So staging is not decorating, it's merchandising a lifestyle. So again, you're trying to show your buyer that they can live here, that this is the lifestyle that they want. So these are some of the key differences. So furniture, again, if it's a vacant stage, you're buying it, putting it all in, as opposed to occupied, you're using the homeowner's furniture. Accessories, you're buying it or bringing it from your warehouse or renting it, putting it all in. With occupied staging, you're really editing and reorganizing. So this is where that last assignment came from, right? So I told you, please don't buy anything, because in an occupied stage, that's what you're going to have to do. Take what already exists and make it beautiful, make it aesthetic, do the triangles, find the focal points, find the great pieces, and then edit the rest away. Personal items in a vacant stage, they don't exist, right? Nobody's there. As opposed to in an occupied stage, you really kind of got to get rid of them or bring them to a bare minimum. Living conditions, the property is empty in a vacant stage. As opposed to occupied stage, the owner has to keep their lifestyle going, so you can't like pull everything out. They still need their shampoo and the toothpaste and the toothbrush, so maybe it's hidden when the home is being shown, but it all still has to be there. Setup process, with a vacant stage, you get in, you get out 2 days maybe. Occupied stage, a little bit more of a process. Again, because you're serving as an organizer as much as you are a stager. So some of the advantages of occupied staging are that they are a lower cost, because you're not having to rent furniture. The furniture already exists. Or again, you haven't purchased furniture, depending on how you're doing the business of it. And again, the business part of this class is the next one, so we're not going to delve into that too much, but the cost does become lower if it's an occupied stage. It could be that your fees go up, again, because you're doing the organizing and the helping, but in terms of supplying furniture and things like that, those costs go down. So you're using existing furniture. It shows that the home is well maintained and lived in, which can appeal to family buyers. It's also less disruptive for the seller, because they're remaining in their home until the closing happens. So this is a occupied stage. So you can see the bed, and we don't really see it completely how it looked before the stagers got there. They pulled off the bed sheets, added new bed sheets, kind of rearranged the tables, added matching lights. So it's beautiful, not a huge difference. The ones we're going to see later are um, drastically different. So this hopefully is where you will be in terms of looking at an occupied stage, where the space itself is already relatively clean, and you're again just adding things to make it be balanced and to work aesthetically. So no furniture rental, we kind of talked about that, and there's fewer labor and delivery, but again, your billing fee might go up a little bit. Another reason why it costs a little less is because there's lower insurance and liability, and there's less time on site or billable hours. And again, kind of depends on what you're doing, right? So no hard set rules in terms of that last one, in terms of time. So when occupied staging is most effective, when a seller who still lives in the home wants to minimize disruption, when the homes already have a good quality of furniture and they only need refinement, not replacement. And so again, as I'm looking at realtor sites, I wouldn't know if it's really well done. I wouldn't know if it's an occupied or a vacant staging, because if the furniture quality is nice, if the homeowner had really good taste, and we just rearrange and almost just styling the space, then I wouldn't know. So that's what we're going with. That's why my pictures are beautiful. It's budget conscious. For small homes, that staging isn't particularly practical because of the cost. It's warm and looks well lived in, and the property lifestyle is appealing as part of the marketing strategy. So the The focus when you are doing occupied staging is to basically redecorate or style the home. Um, I'm sorry, it isn't to redecorate it, but it is to sort of style it, and it's to edit what is already there so that the property feels open, balanced, inviting, and not personalized. So you're not redecorating because you won't have the time, the budget, or any of those things, right? So whatever light fixtures are there, typically whatever finishes are there, you may be able to paint, but you're probably not putting in wood floors, you're probably not putting in a new kitchen. So you're not designing or decorating, you're really just taking what's there, moving it around. And as designers, you guys have a really good eye for the sort of special things, and everybody has special things whether they know it or not. And so those are the things you're highlighting and pulling out and making look really good. So these three steps are the core process of occupied staging. So you're editing. So again, there goes that packing and helping your client like put away those sort of personal items that maybe, is a little difficult. You're rearranging, so you're taking what they have, those key core nice items, and you're rearranging them in the space. And then you're just neutralizing. So, you're doing your best to detract from any of the inconsistencies that are happening, or any of the I'm trying to think of the word for too much color, the brightness or the whatever it is. So you're really trying to neutralize or use that color or use that special piece as like focal point, and making sure that it is buyer friendly. So occupied staging, what is the focus? So the first one is editing. So the definition, it basically means removing visual noise. So a lot of times you can walk into a space and it just is like, oh, it feels a little chaotic. So some people live in spaces like that. So if this is the kind of home you're working in, it really is about curating the space to make it look like a magazine layout, and really editing so that there's a few special things. So the goals are to reduce distractions, to highlight architectural features like windows, fireplaces, flooring, whatever layouts are possible, and to make the room feel larger, lighter, and cleaner. So again, when you start to remove things, the space feels bigger. A lot of times, like in my in-person classes, we work on a lot of commercial projects. So we're always trying to figure out how to make a space quiet, because if there's like 20 people in a room that's echoing, it can be deafening. But oftentimes when you walk into a home, if it has a slight echo, it makes it feel a little bigger, right? Because it means it's open and it's clean. So just getting that lighter, brighter feeling is what the goals are. So you're doing that by removing personal items. You are eliminating duplicate pieces of furniture that don't necessarily need to be there. Like if your client bought this set, maybe you take out a chair and that helps make the space look bigger. Maybe that chair goes to another room where, there was lack. So you're moving things around. You're clearing countertops, you're clearing nightstands, bathroom vanities. You're figuring out again how to organize it in a way that it's still accessible. So maybe there's a tray, or those clear boxes. You put everything in there. When they need it, they pull it out. It's there. But when it's time to show, easy peasy, stick it back in the cabinet. So again, you're really kind of helping them organize and go to sort of a minimalist lifestyle. And you're also helping them pack early. So anything you remove, you can look at it as helping the client start the moving process, and that's how you have to have them look at it as well. So rearranging is the second one. So now that you've sort of decluttered, you're rearranging and you're focusing on how furniture and decor are positioned to enhance, the room's purpose and traffic flow. So you're designing a space to guide the buyer's eye to the special parts of the house, so that they are looking at the best features. So this is one of the images. So this is by a company called Stage to Sell Home that I really like. Like all of their images I feel are really beautiful. And so they do have a lot of before and after images that I included in this deck. But I will say they did a lot more than occupied staging, right? So if I look at the before and after, I know it's the same space because I can see the millwork in the fireplace and the windows, but pretty much nothing else is the same. So they went in and really did probably a remodel on this space. Like I think the flooring might be the same, but other than that, the light fixtures are different. The fireplace is the same, but all the furniture is different. So this is really sort of bigger than an occupied stage. It really is. They moved everything out and started over. So typically that will not be the case. But in the images that I show you, it is, at least for now. When we get to the assignment, we'll see something different. But again, the aesthetic of my slides were very important to me and I couldn't do it. I tried. I really did. Okay, so in rearranging, the goals are to define each space clearly, to improve light and sight lines, to create conversation zones and easy movement paths. So you're pulling furniture away from walls to help create balance. You're centering key pieces on focal points. So again, you're looking at what's selling the house, right? Like, is it this gorgeous view or is it this gorgeous fireplace? And I would agree that the both of these layouts actually are not bad because when I walk in, it's opening me. It's like it's a welcoming into the space, and I look out and I can see the view. The sofa in the second image is definitely a better pick for staging because it's lower, right? I'm getting more of the view. It kind of feels like it's almost going from a bigger, heavier piece to a thinner piece so that it's sort of even pointing me into the window, right? The angle of that sofa is pointing into the view as opposed to this one is just sort of blocking the view, right? So all of these things are, again, aiding in how this space is being sold or being marketed. I think I got everything. Then lastly, you're going to neutralize. So you are going to, again, sort of get rid of all of the personal items in the home to make it market ready. So you want to appeal to the widest buyer demographic. So it's about toning down bold or highly personal design choices that are in the space. So this will make the home feel calm, cohesive, and fresh. It'll help buyers imagine their own furniture and decor in the space. It prevents strong colors or styles from limiting your buyer's interest. So typically you're going to repaint either bright or dark walls. And so hopefully you have that opportunity. You're going to replace bold bedding with solids and neutrals. You're going to swap out family portraits for abstract or nature themed artwork. And you're going to remove any niche decor like sports stuff, political stuff, right? So you want to, again, attract the widest um, client base. I should say buyer base. And then you're going to add a few neutral upscale accents, wood baskets, linen throws, white towels, and editing. So, editing means basically decluttering and simplifying. So if you can count more than 3 decorative items on any horizontal surface, it's time to edit. So remember the triangle rule. So again, you're trying to make spaces look bigger. So if you're filling them up, then they don't look bigger, right? So you're trying to edit and pull things out. Remember that negative space. So you want to have negative space around your objects. So again, this is Stage to Sell Homes, and this is the before, which is quite lovely, right? Quite lovely. I don't have any big issue with it. But when I get here, it's much more updated, right? I think when I'm here, it almost looks a little cold because there are no warm tones. Everything is sort of grays and warm whites, almost gray whites. But when I get here, it doesn't even seem as if they've painted anything. Oh, I take that back. They painted the wall. The walls were darker here. But the same sort of tones of gray. But because they brought in warm woods and warm chairs, it sort of gives it life. And then you'll notice the sofas are smaller, right? Like when I look here, I have this big sofa, which is probably practical for when you're living in this space. But when you're staging, things become a smaller scale and it helps the space look larger. So neutralizing, so you're removing any personal items and you're adding more universal appeal. So again, here's the before and here's the after. And again, just stunning. Let me move myself down here so that you can get a full view. Like I wouldn't have probably even believed this was the same space except the door, right? And I don't even think they changed the paint color. They really just removed all of the furniture and put the furniture back. So again, they just edited really nicely. I think, yeah, even the light fixtures, I do believe are the same. But yeah, that didn't work right. Remember our hanging art rules? This is hiding behind a cabinet. So again, removing personal things. So staging is less and more. The goal is to show enough furniture to define the space, but not so much that it feels lived in or cramped. So again, this is the original space, which, has hospital beds. So, you know, again, I'm sure they were not going to show it like this, but it's just, I mean, this designer, this stager does a really wonderful job. Notice that the window treatments are just completely removed so that all of the light can pour in. All of this beautiful architectural detail is now super um, highlighted, right? Just because the windows are open and I'm getting all that shade and shadow. Because I don't think this is paint in here that's doing this dark to light. I really think it's the sun and the way that it's photographed. And I almost like I'm looking at images thinking, are these the same images? And things are just looking different because of the way it's photographed, because of the way the light's coming in. Could be all of that, right? But again, less bold pattern, more neutral pattern. So really well done. So let's see. So occupied staging, some of the disadvantages. So it's harder to keep consistency, right? And show ready because they're living there. So, they're probably going to have to do a little touch up every single time someone comes to see the space or they have an open house. It requires homeowner cooperation. So they have to really be willing to declutter and start this moving process. And the existing furniture may limit design potential, which is probably a little bit of an understatement. And then daily living can cause wear and disrupt styled spaces. So again, probably have to go back and do a little bit of a reset, or you train. What I have seen for Airbnbs is that you take pictures of what it looks like staged and you leave it in a book. So then when you go back or somebody else goes back, because it's not going to be you every single time, could be the housekeepers, or if you have a property manager, then they can go back and set it. You can do the same thing with your client, like take pictures of these stage areas, and then when it's time to reset, they have a memory and photograph of what that looks like. So when do you use what? So in vacant staging, new construct. I said that backwards. Sorry. So if you have new construction or model homes, vacant staging is great. If you have a rental investment property, again, vacant staging probably has to be. If the homeowner is still living there, It's obviously occupied staging. If you have a tight budget or a fast timeline, occupied staging. If you have luxury or high-end listings, it could be vacant staging, or if they have really cool furniture, it could definitely be occupied, or you're using their own furniture. So it could go either way. So common challenges. So when we talk about the clutter and the personal items, it's like family photos, collections, just mail. Like, oh my gosh, the mail that comes in and you end up with that big pile. Like, what are we gonna do with all of that? So again, you're convincing them to declutter and pack early for moving. Overcrowded furniture. A lot of people, especially if they've lived in their home for a long time, they buy one piece and it's great. Then they buy another piece and it's great. And then they buy another piece and go, okay, it's full. But then they really love that other piece, but they don't want to get rid of this piece. So they end up with a space that really has too much in it. So it's again up to you to edit, and they again could hire you to design the next house, and so you're thinking maybe that one's the one that I would get rid of, so you may be giving them that kind of advice. Dated decor. So if they're have busy patterns or old blinds that are falling apart or really dirty, it may be good time to suggest that they do a refresh and an update. Anything you can replace, you replace with something that is neutral. Child or pet presents. Yep, that's one too, right? So you need to make sure that the odors are kept to a minimum, that the toys are put away, and that's probably up to them more than it is to you, but it is sort of a challenge. And then you just want to make sure that the house is clean and refreshed daily. And then there's the emotional attachment, right? And that's hard. Like we all have that, especially if we've lived in a place for a really long time. It's like, oh, you have the memory of that piece of furniture or accessory or toy or whatever it is. So you really have to start to understand the psychology of attachments. And so maybe there's a whole class on that. We don't know. But helping them sort of detach from their items. So what you can start to think about is how would you politely suggest a homeowner remove a personal or sentimental item? Because it's tricky. I don't know. I mean, I don't think I've had to do it that I can recall. Um, so that's just a question. I don't even really have a perfect answer for that, and I think it's probably one moment at a time because each client is different. So what is the step-by-step process? So the initial consultation, so you'll tour the home with the homeowner. You must take photos and notes. So remember all those questionnaires. So you'll have a questionnaire, you'll take notes. You could probably even give them the questionnaire before you get there so that you have a lot of information before you even arrive. You're going to identify what the key problems are and discuss budget and timeline. Step two, you're going to come in, edit, and declutter. And depending on your family, this could be the biggest process, right? So you're going to remove unnecessary furniture and personal items, clear countertops, tabletops, open up shelving, pack items early to simplify moving later, right? That's your big sell, that you're helping them to simplify the moving process. So you're going to clean and repair anything that needs it. So deep clean kitchens, bathrooms, and flooring. You're going to fix small repairs like scuff walls, broken knobs, leaky faucets. So you're going to make it as perfect as possible. Number four, you're going to style and accessorize. So you're going to arrange furniture for better flow. Use homeowners' best pieces as anchors. Add neutral bedding, throw pillows, and fresh greenery. Emphasize natural light. So you're going to open the blind and replace dim bulbs. And even if you clean the bulbs, like that's one thing you should always do, even in your own home. As you're going through cleaning, dust your bulbs so that you get a really nice, bright, clean light. Keep show ready. And again, that's their part, right? And so you'd have to do daily tidy ups. And then use a light scent. Nothing that's overpowering, but just something that helps the space feel fresh. So communication tips. So we thought about how are we telling them they have to get rid of this family portrait and put it in a box until they get to their next home. So absolutely you have to be respectful, right, of personal taste. So you can't tell somebody, oh, that's ugly, let's throw it away. So, how do you communicate that? Like, maybe that doesn't go with the decor, that doesn't go with the scheme that we're working with, or, so you're figuring out how to say things in the most polite way without being insulting. You're using before and after examples. So hopefully you have some with you. And if not, again, we're going to do a little research on the internet for our assignment. So you can use other people's, just let them know that that's what you're doing. So you could also say, this room feels cluttered versus if we remove a few pieces, Byron will see how spacious the spacious this area is. Right? So instead of like emphasizing the negative, you're emphasizing the positive. Always include prep instructions for the show day. So how you're going to set the scenes, and then provide a written summary after your consultation. So what is the goal? Like, we're now marketing this space, right? And so what you're doing is rebranding the home because it had a brand and that was the homeowner's brand. But now you're trying to brand to the demographic. So again, you've done the demographic research. They may or may not be representing that demographic, but now you're trying to rebrand the home so that you are appealing to the neighborhood demographic and the price point, right? So the strategy is you're going to elevate the neighborhood and buyer profile, then refine colors, finishes, styling details to match the market. And that results in a property that looks current, relevant within its listing category, and help agents market it competitively. So here's another one: by staging to sell. I mean, I mean, like after they restage my house, I'd be like, I'm not moving. I'm staying. Look at how beautiful that is. They're also my cover image. So some of the image, if it looks like the same vibe, it is. Like, I think they have quickly become one of my favorites. They need a reality show. I would watch that. So market outcome is to maximize buyer interest and offers while minimizing time in the market. So again, the reason why they're staging is to get it sold, right? So the strategy is to position the occupied home to complete visually with vacant. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm reading and I'm not just talking. That always messes me up. So the strategy is basically to compete with the vacant stage, right? Or other homes in the area. So you have competition, so you need to make sure that your home is competitive. The one you're staging is competitive with everything else in the area. So there may be vacant stages in the area that had a big advantage because they were vacant, but you need to make sure that your homeowner has all those same advantages. So result, increased perceived value, stronger online engagement, and faster sale. And hopefully it's above asking price. Right? Fingers crossed. So again, stage to sell, the before and the after. And that's it. So we're going to move on to the assignment. And like I said, there will be some images of actual occupied staged homes. It's very easy to tell. So I will see you there. Bye.